when Hurricane Ida churned over Lafourche Parish for hours. It pushed rain into the Galliano family home.
So water came in from under the eaves, kind of in that crack, so that's why all the front of the house had moisture.
Soaking carpets and walls, but most of the pictures stayed dry.
That's my mom and dad.
Including this family treasure, Joyce and Ernie's wedding album.
My dad was, in one word, a prankster. He had a boat most of his life and would take his friends fishing. He always made the sandwiches, and he would leave the cheese wrapper on.
Ernie worked in the oil business and retired at the young age of 51, coddling a love of classic cars. After Joyce passed away, the 74-year-old lived here alone until
he fell on Memorial Day. On that Monday morning, he fell in his bathroom.
He hurt his back, requiring surgery and then rehab at South Lafourche Nursing and Rehab in Cutoff. When they checked him in, the family signed this evacuation paperwork.
I already had the address of where they were supposed to go because of hurricane season was coming as we're filling out this paperwork.
It listed 59355 River West Drive in Plaquemine as the Lafourche Nursing and Rehab evacuation site.
We were told that it would be similar to the nursing home, that he would have a bed and a bathroom, and they evacuated with 7 days of medicine and clothing.
That's not what Galliano got. In the days before the storm, the nursing home called and told the family they were taking him to a sister facility in Independence.
He called us last from his cell phone while he was evacuating, and they were almost to Highway 90. And that's the last time we spoke to him before the hurricane.
I was shocked. The facility housed more than 800 senior citizens.
They packed us in there like sardines.
Can you imagine?
Hungry, they were thirsty. It smelled horrible. It's heartbreaking.
Who does that to old people?
Tangipahoa Parish officials say they were never notified by the 7 nursing homes or their owner, Bob Dean, that this would be an evacuation site for hundreds of residents. For Galliano's family, it was a last-minute change, but not for the Louisiana Department of Health.
When I tell you that the state knew that he planned to use this as an evacuation site year after year, how do you feel about that?
Disappointed in the system. I feel angry, somewhat helpless.
He was definitely afraid of water.
They let my mother drown like a rat.
Well, I'm sorry. Our family's sorry.
He didn't deserve to die this way.
16 years before Ida, 35 people drowned at St. Rita's nursing home in St. Bernard during Katrina, and more than 20 more died at La Fawn Nursing Home in New Orleans East when both homes failed to evacuate. Lawmakers wanted to prevent that from happening again, so they passed a law requiring the nursing homes to submit detailed evacuation plans to LDH and their home parishes.
They don't help residents unless they're enforced. And that's why it comes down to the state to do vigorous enforcement. It's the state's responsibility, and the state also gets paid to do this to ensure that residents in nursing homes are safe.
We scoured the last 3 years of evacuation plans and surveys that the 7 homes owned by Bob Dean filed with the Louisiana Department of Health and their home parishes. The warehouse is mentioned in all of them. In 2019, Maison de Ville and Harvey described it as an, quote, old manufacturing warehouse. Others describe it as a warehouse converted to an evacuation center. But Jefferson Parish Chief Administrative Assistant Sarah Babcock says that alone is not a red flag.
Even if they're going to another nursing home, these people are there's not a bed waiting for them, right? So they're still sleeping on air mattresses or cots in hallways or cafeteria spaces or recreation spaces. And that's really the same as our shelters.
Babcock says there were too many people without enough staff to provide adequate care. But hurricane summaries written by some of the nursing home administrators indicate the buildings themselves were also a problem. The summaries say Dean feared one of 3 buildings in the complex couldn't withstand Ida's Category 4 winds. Another building then flooded, so they moved all the residents into one, mattress to mattress.
Can you imagine
what the story would be right now if he had left them spread out in 3 buildings and one of those buildings got knocked down? I mean, that was the prudent thing to do.
Dean's attorney admits staffing was a problem in the days after the storm.
Clearly, they were not properly caring for the residents there and not asking for help.
But advocates for nursing home residents say they should never be on mattresses on the floor.
The nursing home got paid for the days that those residents weren't in a safe place, weren't in a warm bed, but were in an air mattress in a warehouse. How is that fair and how is that appropriate?
Records indicate the first time the Louisiana Department of Health went into the warehouse was August 27th. They never inspected it as an evacuation shelter before that, and neither did the state fire marshal or the parishes, even though Dean's nursing homes spelled out in their evacuation plans that they plan to use it for at least the last 3 years. LDH's communications director says the agency is, quote, not required to inspect a non-licensed evacuation site before a storm. And the state fire marshal's office says it can find no records they were ever called to do a shelter inspection there.
There has to be a better plan.
That new law passed after Katrina also created the Nursing Home Emergency Preparedness Review Committee to closely review the plans for the state. LDH admits that committee met to create the model that nursing homes use to create their plans. But, quote, it's been dormant for several years, and LDH Secretary Dr. Courtney N. Phillips has directed that it be reconstituted. Local leaders are quick to point out that their role is to review the plans, not approve them. That, they say, is up to the state.
We read the plans, which means you sit down and you read it. And then from there, if there's things that are concerning, you would document that and propose that to the state.
None of the plans indicated the parishes made any recommendations after reviewing them.
We submitted a plan as required by law. No one complained about it. Everybody said, this is fine. We executed the plan flawlessly. Even LDH agrees with that. They went by and saw it, said, this is good. People are coming in, everything's good. The only thing that changed is that the storm turned and went straight for the evacuation facility.
A hurricane evacuation facility that failed to withstand the hurricane.
Failure, a domino effect of failures. And who pays the price? It's the residents.
It's frustrating. It's scary. It's sad. I'm relieved right now, but it's still recent, so
I first spoke with Bennett Galliano hours after she finally found out the state had rescued her dad, taking him to a shelter in Alexandria. Hours later, he went to a nursing home 4 hours away, but he was safe.
It's sad. My father didn't have his hearing aids. He didn't have false teeth. He didn't have his glasses. His phone, I'm assuming, didn't stay with him somewhere on his route.
He was confused and disoriented.
The next words out of his mouth was that I don't want to go back to those places.
She made him this book to help his memory.
I left this in his room. It explains to him where he is.
Just like the wedding album helps to tell his life story.
It concerns me that he didn't get the proper medical attention while they were evacuated. Was his food shredded?
He had trouble swallowing and a history of aspirating, food going down the wrong pipe, causing an infection in his lungs. But she left that visit hopeful he would soon be strong enough to come home.
I mean, we went from, we need to save these items and wash the curtains and make sure mold is not growing anywhere because he's coming home, to he's not coming back.
Aspiration pneumonia ended Ernie Galliano's life less than 2 weeks after he left the warehouse.
My hope is that the guilty parties are held accountable. More than that it never happens again. No one should be treated that way.
5 of the deaths tied to the warehouse are considered storm and evacuation related by health officials. Many of the others are people like Ernie Galliano.